Hello, Allie.
Hello, Melissa. We're finally back. It's been a moment, a brief intermission because our lives have been very busy lately. But we are back in Liverpool, USA, a best friends podcast because we are best friends.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about something that neither of us can shut up about and won't for another year to come.
And is also part of the reason why we have been recording so sparsely.
And that reason is we are both brides to be. We're
Yay!
both engaged to be wed.
Betrothed.
Yeah. And so we're each planning our weddings right now, and we have a lot to say about it, of course. So we thought, well, let's put that to good use and say it on the internet.
Yeah. And I really
Yeah.
thought it would be the best idea to, really portion this out. So I thought, and you had the idea of talking specifically about, tradition around weddings and, the
Mm-hmm.
tradition of the wedding and why we're doing it and the traditions within the wedding that we're choosing to keep or toss, which I think is such a good interesting topic. So yeah.
Yeah, because I would say, so neither of us, I guess just to preface, neither of us are religious. We've talked about religion on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast before. Um, Neither of us are very religious. And both of us are pretty I don't know, we are not conservative. I don't like a lot of the reasons that I think people do cite as a reason to get married are not necessarily applicable to us. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about the reason we each have decided that we do want to get married. Um, and also just what parts of quote unquote traditional weddings we're keeping for our weddings and what parts we're not doing, and kind of some of the alternative things that we are choosing to do for our weddings. And yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about that because it's always interesting to me when people do something even though it's not the, quote unquote normal reason for wanting to do it. Not to say that we're being abnormal by wanting to get married, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, these days, there's such a broad range of ideas and acceptable, I guess, acceptable routes
Hmm.
to take or not take. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, I'll just ask you, have you always known that you wanted to get married?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that, as a girl raised in, the family and, the culture and everything that I was raised in, was definitely, an idea set in my brain from pretty much the beginning, is that, I was gonna get married someday. And so, and that never left me. Um, I think there were a lot of things. It's one of the things that I didn't unlearn when I went to college, you know. I feel like there were a lot of things that I like uh learned more about and decided to think differently on, after leaving my town and going to a liberal arts school and getting it, and doing all that. And
Right.
getting married is not one of the things that I changed my mind on. I
Yeah.
love weddings. I am so I'm such a romantic. I'm still very into it. My understanding about the concept of marriage is of course different now, but I'm still very into it.
Yeah. I think that's really sweet. Yeah, I think that the absolute number one reason I want to get married is because I just think it's fun and cute,
Yeah.
which I don't know, to some people that is like not, they're like, oh my god, like don't get married, but but I'm just like, oh, but I love weddings, I love love, like that's so
Yeah.
so sweet, like I just love it.
Yeah, I brought this up here so I wouldn't forget like to talk about it and so I could remember what it was called. And I've talked about this book on here before because we talk about the books that we read.
Yeah.
But when we got engaged and we decided who we wanted to be our officiant, and he was like, "You should read this book, like just as a suggestion," and him and Justin like talked, for a long time just to make sure because he was kind of like, as a friend and like as kind of like a mentor figure to Justin, he was kind of like, talking to him about the reasons why he's getting married, and kind of like making sure their ideals were at least a little bit aligned, so he'd like be comfortable with officiating our wedding. And so he let us borrow this book called What is Marriage For by E.J. Graff.
Hmm.
And I'd also highly recommend this actually.
Yeah.
Just because, and now that you're getting married, I'm sure you'll blast through this in a short amount of time. Um, uh, and so it goes over, it has all these different sections in the book. It goes over like all the different reasons why people might get married, like the really common ones, like for money, for love, for this or that. And it has sections, and it goes over it in like the history of like Western marriage and traditions and everything. And it really like, it didn't change my mind about why I want to get married, but it was a really good way to like learn and also understand more deeply like the concept of marriage historically and in the modern age and what it might mean to get married. And so yeah, like I recommend it. And I do think that there's like a lot of reasons why or why not to get married and a lot of reasons why I want to get married. It's like, yeah, because it's cute and I love
Right.
weddings. And for me, it's a lot of like the symbolism of it. Like,
Yeah.
we're no longer in an age where people will like get married for like job reasons strictly or anything like that usually. But so it's a lot about the symbolism, I think, about what it means to marry someone and
Yeah, that
stuff
was
like that.
yeah. That was like a big, I the biggest thing that Abe and I talked about before we like decided, yes, like we think we want to get married and specifically get married to each other is
Mm-hmm.
that we were already feeling like we are family, like
Mm-hmm.
we want to be each other's family in a symbolic way, but also like in a legal way where we're like, no, we want everyone, including the government, to recognize us as each other's immediate family, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
um and yeah, I think part of that is like symbolic, like, oh, I'm choosing you to be my family,
Mm-hmm.
but also just the practicality of that as well.
Yeah.
But it was really important to us to be each other's family, and I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest reason to for us, besides the fact that I just, yeah, think that it's just so lovely to like
Yeah.
know you love someone enough that you want to like marry them and be with them forever. But also just, yeah, the idea of like being each other's family and making that as true as it can possibly be, including legally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for the love, it's for the practicality, it's for, kind of all of the above, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Justin was always very serious about it, which I appreciated because I also like I feel like we were really similar in that way in that kind of from the beginning, like we weren't like thinking we were going to get married from the beginning, but we were both very serious about like, all right, if we're going to like be serious about each other, eventually that means like we're not messing around, like
Right.
we're we're being serious about this. And then it got to the point, like, we talked about marriage quite a while before we got engaged, and now we're even, like, there's gonna be like 3 years in between when we got engaged and got married. So it's not like, yeah, we don't think that we need to be married before we could do a bunch of stuff, but also I don't know where I'm going with this, but a lot of stuff that you said, but like we're like
Yeah.
um now we're getting to the point where like a bunch of other people are getting married and engaged, and we're like, we just want to be married already. Like we just want
Yeah.
to be married already.
I think if you're doing it right, which I guess there's no right or wrong way necessarily, but to me at least, for me to feel like I'm doing it right, and knowing for sure that I have the right person and that I've thought about it enough and that like we've stood the test of time enough where I feel comfortable committing to this person for life. I should feel like I'm already married to this person before
Yeah.
I'm legally actually married to them, right?
Yeah.
So like for me it was important to me that Abe and I like lived together before we got married because I wanted to know him that way.
Mhm.
And also for us to be together long enough that like we truly really knew each other in terms of like we've seen each other on like bad days. We know what it's like when one person gets sick. We know what it's like to like have a fight. We know what it's like to navigate hard things. And also we've like gone on vacation together and like
Mhm.
we know how each other likes to celebrate and like all of the good things as well. But I think it was important to us that we like did all of that before we made the decision to get married to each other. And so, kind of the byproduct of that is we've gone through all of that. And so now it just feels like our lives are so completely woven together that it feels like we're already married. I mean, we just got a
Yeah.
dog together. We like live in this house together. We have lived together for like almost 3 years now. Like we feel like we're married already, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, totally. And very similar, except for the dog thing, of course.
Mhm.
Like, very similar, yeah. Yeah, we do so much, like, we're already so intertwined that there's things that, at this point, um, it's like, just make that last step already, Just make it
Right.
official already, because it already feels like that's the last thing that's missing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any, like, okay, so what are some kind of thoughts that did you have anything like specific to start with? Because there's a lot of ways that we can go talking about like traditional things.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna kind of go through a couple of like really classic traditions for weddings and
Mm-hmm.
see if either of us are doing them or not doing them or have any like specific opinions on them. And so I have kind of a little list of things, and we can kind of go through.
Okay, I think
So
that's
I guess my
cute.
first one that I'm gonna ask you is, and I actually don't know that I know 100% the answer to this. Are you changing your last name to Justin's?
So, okay, what I think I'm going to do, because I battled with this for a long time because the like feminist part of me like
Right.
really wanted to keep my last name. Justin was like, I just want us to have the same last name. And I'm like, okay. All right. And then, which is fine. Like, I do not have that big of an opinion about it. So I'm like, if that's what you want, I can respect that. And I think it's totally sweet and I get it. So, but I didn't want to hyphenate. I don't like that. For whatever reason, in my head, it's just like, I don't want to hyphenate. And so basically, my favorite idea right now, that's been my favorite idea, is to just add his last name. So I'll have four names. But I
Mm-hmm.
will take his last name, but my last name will still be a part of my legal name.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know if that's gonna make my life more complicated than it needs to be, but also other people do it. I don't know, like, other people have, like, multiple names. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to do. And I probably like won't change my signature or whatever cuz like whatever, it's just scribbles anyway.
Still starts with
It
H,
still
so
exactly. It still starts with H. So, yeah. So that is my like not super short answer to that. But
okay.
I thought a what like this was like before either one of us were engaged. I remember having a conversation about marriage, and we talked about like bridesmaids. We talked about last names. We talked about this and that. And I feel like you said you didn't want to change your last name, but then recently, did you say that you were thinking about it? Where are you at right now on that?
For a very long time, okay. I didn't ever think that I would change my last name. I thought that I would I feel very, very, very connected to my last name, and I love it, and I never thought that I would want to change it. But I will be changing my last name. Full send will be changing my last name. I will not be hyphenating. I will not be keeping Watson, which was a huge decision for me. Like it
Yeah.
was not something that I thought I was going to do. Abe, of course, like did not pressure like make me do that or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He was very understanding of whatever I would want to do. He definitely expressed that he would prefer for us to have the same last name, and he feels very connected to his last name as well. um and we talked about it a lot, and I think I decided that what makes the most sense is for me to have the same last name as my husband. It makes sense that our kids would have the same last name as both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes the most sense for it to be his last name rather than my last name.
Sure.
So it was just kind of like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
the logic is logicking. Like I guess that's what we're going to do. And I think also like, he so like I'll share a tiny piece of Abe's lore, which you kind of already know, but
Mm-hmm.
Abe's biological dad died when he was like 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the last name that he has is his biological dad's last name. And so it means a lot for him to have that last name and to carry on that last name. And so I think that like I really do want to be part of carrying that last name on and giving that last name to like my kid and like having that kid have that last name. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it kind of got to the point where it was kind of bigger than me, and it felt, I don't know, that's kind of dramatic maybe, but it felt that way. And I think like for both of us it feels really important to take that last name and like carry it on. And yeah, I feel sad like leaving my last name behind. And yeah, the feminist in me, like you said, is kind of like, what the
Right.
hell?
Yeah.
Like, but I do think that that last name is important, and I will be changing my signature because Watson and Nurkowitz are like
Very
nothing,
different. Yeah.
nothing alike. Um, and yeah, Nurkowitz is quite the last name, so I'm gonna have to get used to it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and there was a similar thing that I forgot about until you said that for me too is that like my last name of course is meaningful to me and of course belonged to my father who is also now not alive. Um but at the same time like in terms of how important the last name is to my family is like my family, like I don't really know where like Hood is a fairly common last name. Um my mom never shared my last name, like so
Mhm.
it's kind of like my family doesn't have any really big ties to names or last names or whatever. And
Mhm.
Justin's family, like I think he just objectively has a cooler last name story. Like there are not very many Herworths on the earth.
Right.
It's a way more traceable, like cooler, unique last name. I think I mean,
Mhm.
I think Hood is an amazing last name, but
It-
like I love that. But I think just like story, like lore wise, I think his is just like objectively cooler. But that's also why I kind of decided to like keep mine still is like because it
yeah.
does have like value to me, and so I'm like, I'll just have a fancy writer name, you know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's
I
my
like that.
yeah.
Are you so okay, my next tradition that I want to know about is are you gonna do like the bouquet toss and also the garter belt toss?
Okay.
That was
I
called the
don't. I
garter
know. I
belt.
don't. I
I
don't.
don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
Me either.
think so. Yeah, I think it's just like more work, and I don't care that much about it. I might wear a garter, partly because, um, just that's also what Justin's grandma gave me was hers,
Aw.
and the elastic still works somehow. So I might, and it's blue, so so it's like symbolic and everything. So I might like have one on my leg, but I don't. I'm not gonna do any of the whatever things that you do during the wedding for that or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have one. I don't know if it's on your list, but if I can
Okay,
include
so
it, is are you going to do? So this is kind of like a question that has a few different things, like a
sure.
first look, or are you going to wait until Abe, like wait that day so Abe doesn't see you in all of your clothes, like all of your dress? Are you gonna wait until the ceremony? Are you gonna do a first look, or are you just gonna like not care, like get ready together? Like, do you know what you want to do that morning?
I think so we don't have anything like specifically decided yet, but I
Mm-hmm.
think what will probably happen, so I am like, keeping my dress a secret and all of that.
Mm.
So like he doesn't know what that looks like yet.
Okay.
I think we won't get ready together. I know that much at least. I think we would like to do a first look, but um I don't know. He kind of wants to do like just a big surprise like in front of
Yeah.
everyone. But I'm a little like um so I don't know. I think a first look is really cute. Also,
Yeah.
I know our photographer will like do a really good job
Mm.
with like doing a first look and like, helping us like capture that. Um so I feel like a
To
first
be
look.
decided. All right. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Okay, what about you?
I am pro first look. I totally understand it. I think it's a really cute idea, and I think it's really a creative way to like get some of that emotion out so that you can be more composed during the actual ceremony.
Yeah.
Like that's why I like that. But I didn't really have too big of an opinion about it, and this is one of those things that I feel like so far I've said a couple things that Justin has had a big opinion about, but he really doesn't feel that strongly about too many things
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
wedding stuff specifically. But this happened to be like one of the other things that he felt so strongly about that I'm like, okay, I'll go with it. It's cute. Like I support it. Is he does not want to see me. He does not want to see my dress. He doesn't even want to know like what the dress, like the shape of it. He knows the colors that are in it, and he knows it's going to have long sleeves. But he does not know anything else, and he doesn't want to. He's like, if you want me to cry, I cannot see you until you walk down the aisle. I'm like, well, I feel like you'd cry anyway, but so
Yeah.
that is
That's
what we're
funny.
doing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of like what other traditions I had.
Well, you mentioned you might not have bridesmaids, or you might at least not have like people that stand next to you, like up at your altar. And I'm having
Yeah.
just two each, which is, yes, it's traditional, but I feel like maybe it's more traditional to have like more than that. Um,
I would
but
say,
that is
yeah.
something that I'm doing that I think traditionally you're not, or untraditionally
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah, I think Abe and I are just having a best man and a maid of honor.
Mm-hmm.
Our bachelorette and bachelor parties will have more people than would have been bridesmaids if we had
Yeah.
bridesmaids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of also why we wanted to do it that way is so that like my bachelorette party can have like more of my friends at it
Mm-hmm.
without me having to be like, oh, it's like just the bridesmaids and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um So yeah, then our basically so on our wedding day, the people that are in charge of things will be less, and at the bachelorette party there will be more people that get to come, and it feels like a win-win to us.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, okay, yeah. And also just simplifies things because we each have one sibling that's the same gender as us, and it's just
Oh,
like,
so yeah.
okay. It's just like, well, okay. Just made it like really simple.
Yeah.
So we just kind of went with it. Um, but yeah, I know some people have like 10 bridesmaids
At the wedding I
and
just went
groomsmen.
to, they had it was matchy numbers, which I really think is like I also really wanted to do that, but Justin would have like way more than me. So that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why we're just doing two.
Yeah.
But I think they had like six on each side. And it's like,
That's
yeah,
a lot,
right?
in my opinion. I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe I just like don't, I don't know. Cause like I guess I have six people that I could ask, but it just feels like a lot. Because, and
Yeah.
also, I don't know, I always really shy away from any sort of like hierarchy of my friends. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, who's my friend enough to like get this and who's not? And I don't know. It just always feels like awkward to me.
That was so hard for me because but I think it has a lot more to do with my insecurities. But
Yeah,
but yeah, that
I
was
get
one
that.
that was so I'm like, how do I decide that? Like, how do I decide
Right?
that? It seems to be so obvious for everybody else, but I'm like, I don't know how I would decide that. And so yeah, it just that was simplifying it for me is because I'm a very like um yeah, like obviously Nicole because she's my twin sister. And then I've always been the type of person to have like one best friend and you are that for the longest amount of time. So for me, there was just no one else more obvious than you or Nicole. Like there was you and Nicole, and then there's like other people who I could like be like I don't know. So
Yeah,
that was what was the most obvious for me.
yeah. Which it makes me feel so much love
Oh,
to hear
good,
to hear that.
good.
But no, I feel the same way, right? Like it's like I obviously have my sister,
Yeah.
and she is, sisters are on a different tier ranking
Mhm.
than anyone else. But then I have like some friends that I really consider to be like sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't imagine not having you like at my wedding. I was kind of
Mhm.
thinking about it like, oh, who could I like not imagine not being there,
Mhm.
or like being at my bachelorette party, or being at like other like significant moments in the wedding. Um and so yeah, and then that list kind of grew a little bit. Like I still had some people, I could have figured out bridesmaids, I think, but yeah, Abe has I would say probably twice as many friends as I do, maybe even three times as many.
Yeah.
So then I was kind of like, okay, well then if I try to stretch my list to like match his, then now I'm kind of like, it felt wrong to me to like have like you and like my sister and um my friend Nicole, and like and some of those people that I feel so 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 close to, and
Mhm.
then to have like some other friends that are just kind of like not acquaintances, but you know what I mean. And it kind of felt a little bit like there's if I try to stretch it too much, then it's like then there's just kind of everyone else, you
Yeah,
know.
it gets too
But
like hard. Yeah.
and I'm only inviting 65 people to my wedding, so
Oh,
it's
okay. I don't know if I
you know
learned like a specific amount. Is that
yes.
based on capacity of the venue or is that based on
Mhm.
like what is that based on?
That is just based on how like our list of people that we're
Okay.
inviting. Our
That's
venue, I think,
impressive.
can have up to like 300 or
Oh,
something. So there's room
wow.
if we wanted more.
Yeah.
But I feel so strongly about having like such a small wedding. Like
Yeah.
I am like homies only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
We went a little bit above what we originally wanted to. I believe we are at 80, or I think it
mhm.
would be like 79 not including us or 82. Yeah, we're at like right at, I think we're like right at 80. And that was a little bit more than we originally intended. So
Yeah.
there were some kind of hard decisions in the very end that we ended up flip flopping to yes. That
Mm,
maybe we didn't have to, but we did. And so, but we're
yeah.
thinking like, well, there's always people that won't go. There's always people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You
so,
haven't gotten the official head count yet.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's gonna be, yeah.
So, that'll be less than that, but yeah, we were like, okay, this is actually it. This is
Yeah.
it. We are not going above 80. Like, that is actually it. Um, so yeah, and then I also learned, this is a little, well, we'll get like back on track in a second, but I also learned that it would be a good idea to have a backup list because that wedding that we went to last weekend, we were invited like 2 weeks beforehand, and it's because they already paid for food, and they're like, hey, like, sorry, like, if this is rude, but you were like on our backup list, we already paid for food. If you want to go, like, it'd be great to have you.
Mhm.
We could send an invitation. And I was like, listen, as a person who is planning a wedding, I am
I get it.
not
Yeah.
offended. I am actually
Yeah.
flattered. So I'm going to start a
Yeah.
backup list now for the, like if we pay for food and then, so, uh, so another thing that I thought of that is a very specific traditional thing that I am not doing that I'm wondering if you've thought about yet. Because I know there's a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
I've been engaged for a long time, so I don't know, if there's stuff that you've even
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
yet. But I have always, I think, in my memory, wanted to walk down the aisle alone. Because that is like another like feminist part of my brain that's like, I don't want a man to give me away because I'm not owned by a man type of a thing.
Hmm.
But also I genuinely feel like my dad like wouldn't really want to do that. He was not like a
Yeah.
traditional man, and he was an atheist, and he was not one like for the spotlight. So,
Sure. Yeah.
and so I always wanted to walk down the aisle alone. That's still my plan. The wedding that I just went to, both parents of each person walked them down the aisle, which I thought was really sweet. I don't really know what's going to happen. We've been talking about it in a lot more detail because we're like, well, is Justin going to walk down the aisle alone? If he walks down the aisle with his parents, would it be weird if I walk down the aisle alone? So we're thinking about like different things. I still feel fairly strongly about wanting to do that, and it's for like the feminist reasons. It's also for like, it's my turn. It's my
Yeah.
turn. You know, I
Yeah.
look at me, it's my turn. But also, when I was thinking about it more recently, I was thinking like, well, maybe another reason is that I specifically don't want to walk down the aisle with anyone else because there are certain ways in which I want to like honor that my father isn't there.
Sure.
And when I do that, it will be like I'm doing this because one of the reasons is like because people who will realize like, oh, her father's not here. And there are just certain
Yeah.
things that like, I want him to be there in a way, even if that way that he's not
Yeah.
there is that he's not there, or the way that he's there is that he's not there, type of a thing. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. I
No,
was
it
just
makes a ton of sense. It
yeah,
makes a ton of
yeah. Because we're doing
really
another.
sweet.
What? Sorry.
I think that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you thought
And
about that at all? Like, what if you're just going traditional or?
I have also known for a long, long time exactly what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that I've always wanted both of my parents to walk me down the aisle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I think that's really nice.
Um, yeah.
Is there anything extra or like non-traditional that you're thinking of doing like for the ceremony other than the obvious we won't be in a church, we won't have any religious vows, um and but like for me we're going to do this is also kind of a dad thing, or it's a very a dad thing, is we're going to do a sand ceremony, which is a thing that I've seen people do and I've actually seen people do it in a religious way. um
Hmm.
but we're doing it specifically into an hourglass, which is
Mm-hmm.
because it's dad related, and it's an hourglass from my dad, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not put together, and so his dad is going to finish putting it together, which I think is super cool. Um, but is there anything like ceremony related that you have thought of yet? And then I just have like
I
a
don't.
couple more things, and then I know that
Yes.
we're like winding down on time.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that we will do anything like too no, I think our ceremony will be pretty short, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to like say our own vows. We're not going to like do the trad ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be a religious ceremony, so like that will be untraditional and just we're going to change the phrasing of things, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then yeah, I don't know. We haven't like fully mapped that out yet, I would say. But I don't think that we're gonna be doing anything like a sand ceremony or like I know there's like the
The
hand
hand
ceremony.
tying and
Yeah, we're
yeah,
not gonna be doing that.
candle
Um,
lighting. That's one I wanted to
I know
do because
some
I like
people.
fire.
Yeah, I know some people like plant a tree.
Oh,
Um,
oh, I just
okay.
remembered. At the wedding I just went to, they did a sword ceremony.
Oh
Just putting it out
wow,
there. They did like they like held up swords that were like really sick, like whole actual swords, and the officiant like read like a whole thing about why it's symbolic. Anyway, so lots of
that's
things you
cool.
could, yeah, it was pretty sick, but that,
Yeah, damn.
yeah.
I have one for you. Are you gonna do the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue?
Not intentionally, because uh I just like I wasn't really thinking about it. I was kind of letting my family decide whether or not they wanted to do that for me. But unintentionally, Justin's grandma has done that. She gave me her wedding dress, which is like kind of something borrowed. She gave me that um garter, which is blue. So it's kind of like both old and borrowed, and like all of that is all of those things. And then um my mom is making my wedding dress, which will be something new. So it's kind of like unintentionally fulfilled.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think I definitely will do it, partially just because I'm like such a sucker for like those cutesy little things like that.
Yeah. There are
Like, do I
certain
actually
traditions,
believe
the cute ones.
exact well, do I actually believe that if I didn't do that, my like marriage would be doomed? Like, no.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I think it's cute, and also our wedding colors are blue, so like,
Yeah.
you know. Um, are you wearing a veil?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Because I specifically want my dress to be floor length and not have a train so that I can move, and like not worry about
Mhm.
it. But I want my veil to be kind of like the difference between the ceremony and the reception outfit is I want my veil to be like really long and like
Okay.
extravagant. That's my goal.
Okay.
That's my idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
Are you
Love
gonna
it.
do any type of headdress?
I don't know still.
Yeah.
Um, I I just don't know what I want. I don't want it. I just don't want it to like look funky, and like I don't even mean in a like drawing attention to the fact that I'm bald like type of way.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just like will it like proportionally look weird. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I'm like I don't know because I was saying that to my mom. My mom was like, "No, like you got to just like embrace it. Like, no like everyone who's coming like loves you. Like nobody." And I was like, "Oh, no, no, no. It's like literally not that.
Yeah.
It is simply the fashion of it
Yeah.
all."
I
Like,
still think you should try out flower crowns.
yeah.
Like, for sure. Like, just like try it out. I think it's worth trying. And then
Yeah.
if you're like,
I
this
think
isn't working, then.
yeah. Yeah. I think it like a really tiny flower crown might be exactly the right vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So, we shall see.
And then one of the last, like, couple things that I wanted to say is now I keep thinking of more things. Dang it. Is that,
Yeah.
Are you doing like ceremony, cocktail hour, reception, dancing, dinner? Like, we're doing a fairly traditional order of events besides
Mhm.
the plan is to have a ceremony in the morning at a separate venue and then in the afternoon in a separate venue do a reception, but we will have like dinner and dancing and stuff like that. Are you gonna so like what's your plan?
I would say it's mostly traditional. I guess the only like kind of untraditional thing with that is that we're not gonna serve like we're not gonna have like assigned seats and like
Mm.
dinner that is served.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much going to be like there will be food out, but it will not be like a okay, it's dinner time, eat now and sit in your seat and like
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah. We're
Um
gonna have buffet style, so it won't, it'll be like dinner's ready
mhm.
now, you can eat. But I think we might do assigned seats. We might do assigned
Okay.
seats. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely see the like
Appeal.
appeal of
Yeah.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think like it just there's just something about it that I really just like don't want everyone to like be sitting and eating like at once. I don't know
Oh.
why I like don't want that, but I
Okay.
just don't.
All right. All right.
Um and yeah, I think we will have like kind of like a little bit of a cocktail hour like right after the ceremony, just like while everyone's kind of like
Yeah.
debriefing,
I know,
and
like,
probably we'll take more pictures and
yes,
things, but
usually and traditionally and practically, it is because everybody's taking pictures. So you're like
yeah.
occupying. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But
okay. Will you be doing dances like father daughter dance and first dance and all these different, like, little things like that?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
we will at least do some of that. I know my dad and I are definitely doing a dance. Um Other than that, we'll kind of see what everyone wants to do. Like I don't want
Sure.
anyone to be like forced, but I think pretty much everyone that traditionally would dance will do it. I
Okay.
also like I've seen this done at a couple of weddings, which I think is so cute. But like having like the couple that's been married the longest that's at your
Mm.
wedding, like
Mm-hmm.
go out and dance like first. And I'm like 99% sure that it will be my grandparents that are like the longest married couple. And it will be my grandma's birthday. So I'm like,
Oh.
we have to get them out there.
Yeah.
Um,
We went to a wedding, Justin and I went to a wedding where they had everybody, all couples, slow dance, and then they said, like, if you've been married longer than this many years, or if you've been married, like, not as long as this many years, like, leave the dance floor. So eventually it was just, like, the oldest couple that's been married, like, for millennia that was, like, on the day. It was cute, so.
that's so
We're
cute.
not gonna do
Yeah.
anything like that just because it won't be relevant, but I mean, there will be people there married for a long time, but there's a lot. I will not have any grandparents there. I'll just
Yeah.
say it like that. And so it'll be,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a really cute idea.
Yeah. Um, are you gonna have like people do speeches?
Yes, and listen, okay, listen. Now, okay, I recently heard this from a couple people, and this is what we're doing: is we will have toasts, but it will be a short list of people who get to do toasts, and they will be asked slash notified beforehand that they will be doing a toast, and it will not be random. Those will be the only people doing toasts. They will have a time limit. They will get like time ahead so they can plan it, and that's it.
Yeah. I think that is the way to do it.
Yeah.
That is like that's how we're gonna do it too. Is just like this is not a free for all, and also if you're gonna speak, like you need to do it in 2 minutes, and then
Yeah.
you're
We're
done.
going to have, like, we have a list of people, like, traditionally people who would do it, and then a couple people who we think will probably want to give a speech that we will allow. And we're going to ask those people, and we're not,
Hmm.
like, nothing else.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to say that's just like a funny story before we wrap up. Do you
Okay.
have anything else that you wanted to say on the topic of traditions?
Um, Are you gonna have any strippers at your
That's up to you.
Okay, well, don't leave it up to me
I did.
then.
Oh my god, I did tell Nicole, or I don't remember if I told you, but I did tell Nicole that I saw this article that Darcelle's was in trouble, and I'm like, oh my god, it would be really fun to go to a drag show for my bachelorette party. So that's all I'll say about that. Not the same thing as strippers,
No.
but uh, in terms of evening entertainment, I guess. But I don't think so. But
That
anyway,
was
yeah,
just
I think it will be really fun. It's been really fun getting to pick and choose what traditions to follow and not follow. So that's been, I like being able to
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then my last story, if you don't have anything
Mhm.
else to,
No, I don't.
is I don't remember if I already told you this, but I want to say it anyway because I think it's funny. I think it's funny. You're allowed to laugh. People out there might be like, but it's funny. So I was texting my mom like a few months ago, like, hey, do we have any wedding traditions? Like, or anything that I should be considering or whatever. And basically she said, oh, there was like one that some women on the mom side of her family did where like during your first dance people would come up and like pin money to your dress, but she's like, the people in our family that's relevant for are like dead now, so it might like not make sense that you do it. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, so she's like, I don't know, I'll like text like her sisters, like my two other aunts, and see, like what they have to say. And then later she sends me a screenshot of the group text. She's like, oh, hey, like, are there any like wedding traditions in our family? And the one of my aunts answered. The only answer was, well, we usually do it twice. I'm
Okay,
like,
not a tradition that we are going to uphold.
no, my mom was breaking cycles. This is one of them. She didn't break that one, and I love her so much, and I respect her so much. Um, but yeah, so like it's a little bit more true than maybe some people would like to admit, but it was still a funny comment to make. So, but that was my little funny
So
thing. Yeah.
that's on wedding traditions.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love it. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to go to your wedding.
Oh
I
my
can't wait for
gosh.
you to come to my
Yes.
wedding.
I'm so excited.
And until the next time, which it sounds like we still have a lot we could talk about
Oh yeah.
with weddings.
We will.
So, this could become a wedding podcast for the next year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, until next time when we talk about, I don't know, our floral
Yeah,
arrangements.
something like that, yeah.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.